meeting from the 14th of September 2022. And do we have anyone on confirmation of the minutes? Councillor Guthrie.
I'm happy to do confirmation, but I just noticed there's a spelling mistake on page 25.
On page 25? Whereabouts is that?
It's scone time is spelt incorrectly.
Is it? Oh,
in
because
the
scone,
actual subject heading.
yep, through the chair, it's scone time.
Okay, so you're moving the minutes with that correction?
I am, please. I'd like to move the minutes of the ordinary meeting of the 24th of August 2022. Subject.
Okay, do we have a seconder?
Right, I'm with you.
Councillor Taylor, any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We're going to the vote. All those in favour?
I'll be abstaining, thank you.
Okay, so that's 8-0 or 8-1, I think, and it'll be noted that Councillor Edwards will be abstaining. Okay, moving on to the agenda. Uh, 8.1, notice of to amend resolution OM/08.2022/23. Do we have a mover, Councillor McMullen?
Mr Mayor, I'll move that council, a council approve the addition of suppliers to the register of pre-qualified suppliers for minor works, civil construction and maintenance in accordance with S232 of the Local Government Regulation 2012 under the proposed table below. 2, pre-qualification of these suppliers will remain current until the 31st of March 2024. 3, council authorise the Chief Executive Officer or delegate to enter into a deed of agreement with the selected suppliers formalising...
Excuse me, Councillor McMullen, sorry to interrupt. You sort of missed the first bit on page 29. I just didn't want you to have to repeat it all.
No, I don't.
You have to amend.
Oh, sorry, apologies, yeah.
Just didn't-
Yeah, I see what you mean, sorry.
Sorry to interrupt.
So what is the, do we just have to do page 30?
No, you've got to do the
29.
heading. The heading's on. I missed that. That's correct. Thank you.
Sorry, yep. So
I'll
through
start
the
again,
chair, it's
Mr Mayor.
just
The
that-
council amend
Oh, down
resolution
that bottom.
Yep.
0M.08.2022/23 to read as follows. 1. Council approve the addition of suppliers to the register of pre-qualified suppliers for minor works, civil construction and maintenance in accordance with S232 of the Local Government Regulation 2012 under the proposed table below. 2. Pre-qualification for these suppliers will remain current until 31st of March 2024. And 3. Council authorise the Chief Executive Officer or delegate to enter into a deed of agreement with the selected suppliers, formalising the terms and conditions of the draft deed of agreement.
Okay, we have a seconder, Councillor Ladbrook. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
9-0. Page 42, notice to amend resolution OM/08/2022/11. There's got to be any changes now with this one because we've not had our Surat meeting.
About Mitchell, isn't it?
Yeah, but now we should we not add in when we're going to do the go back and do the Surat meeting?
I look through the chair, you've got an opportunity to amend that to, if you'd like to include that.
Yeah, does it have to have 5 days to do that, or is that a separate one? Or
You've actually met the amendment notification period. The reality is now you're proposing that the motion be further amended. You can still propose that amendment from the floor. it's really about making sure that the original resolution that's being repealed, people are aware of what you're basically going to be changing it to. Your resolution's actually broad enough that it's talking about the meeting in Surat. You could either amend that or move a separate motion to support a new date for meeting
do
in
a
Surat
separate
if councillors didn't feel comfortable about amending the resolution further.
Yeah, right.
But it's it's a recommendation from
Yeah.
the officer.
Yeah.
What a elected councillor decides to move, regardless of
Yeah.
it being an amendment, is entirely up to that individual.
No, the only thing I was asking the CEO was about the time frame, because
It's been met though, so you can move. You could move to change all of this today if you wanted to.
right, okay. Yeah, okay, do we have a mover for this motion? Councillor Burkett.
I'd like to move the council amend resolution number OM/08.2022/11 to read as follows: that council 1 continue to hold ordinary meetings on the second and fourth Wednesday of each month, commencing at 9 a.m, except for December, when a single meeting to be held on the 14th of December 2022 in Roma. 2, so do we want to put a month in this one?
Should we go for March and just do it in March? Put it on the end of our spring-summer series to do the Surat meeting, because I think we need to go back.
My
to the
recommendation would be just to drop Surat off this recommendation at the
think about it
moment
later.
and come back and redo it.
Just don't mention.
Can I just ask a quick question with that? Just, can we do that? Like, do we have to include the Surat? Because technically, we actually did have a meeting at Surat. So I'm just, like,
Council.
technically, we actually
Yeah,
did have that meeting in Surat, so it's a further meeting or another meeting in Surat. I mean, the community knows why. It's just keeping it so it's right for our books.
And would we say held the first meeting or hold? It'd still be.
We're
It's
amending
past
an
10.
we're amending an original resolution, so I suppose it's to hold. So I mean,
You could add a 7.
Hey?
Add
That's what I was-
0.7.
You can't hold a meeting in September now.
No.
We can't approve the whole.
No, that's what I mean.
7th
It should be.
oh, I guess, because we've already approved to hold the meeting in September.
Yeah, but it's saying
No, we haven't.
Yeah, we have on the original one.
and it says hold the first meeting. So this is not. We've
So
passed
we've
the
already
first.
approved that one.
It's just the whole bit.
So,
that's-
Councillor Berger, you could, if you wanted to, could have hold the first meeting of the month at Yulbar in October, at Mitchell in November and Eden in June, and then fix Surat at 0.7.
Yeah, just get rid of this.
That's
Yeah.
what I was sort of, just get rid of it in this one.
Get rid of in September at Surat. Yeah. Okay, 2, hold the first meeting of the month at Yulbar in October, at Mitchell in November, and in June in February 2023, with a preferred finish time of no later than 6 p.m. 3, hold the second meeting of the month in Roma of the months of September, October and November 2022. 4, hold the meetings at council administration centres where possible, if not at the respective local community hall. 5, invite the 4 local and surrounding communities to the spring-summer council meetings in the region, noting break times for morning tea 10:30 a.m. and lunch 1 p.m. to allow members of the public to meet with councillors informally during these breaks. 6, seek to involve required staff by virtual meeting or by telephone to reduce the need for staff to travel within and outside of normal business hours for meetings in the smaller regional towns. And 7, hold the first meeting of the month of March in Surat.
No, but when are we doing that, Bud?
Oh, sorry, I don't even know what March dates are. Sorry,
2023.
2023. Yeah.
Right, I'll second that. Is there any opposition to that motion?
You might want to, Councillor Berger,
Check the-
include in number 7 with a finish time of no later
Aye.
than 6 p.m. And preferred finish time, and then stating no later.
So it'll be
That
the
fights each other.
same.
You can't have a preferred finish time, but then say no later than 6.
Yeah.
It's up to the,
Similar to the calendar at the bottom of point 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing is, what happens if we've got something that's really urgent and we need to go a little bit over? Like it's very prescriptive,
Through the chair. I mean, it's quite prescriptive, and what you'd have to do is actually make a motion on the day to actually extend beyond that to get consensus from.
We can do that on the day, can't we? Yeah.
You could do that.
You'd be amending this resolution.
and you'd have 5
If you've got,
days.
with the preferred time,
Yeah.
No later than 6
finish
p.m.
time,
Says preferred.
preferred, so if we can't get it, it gives you that
So do you
flexibility.
mind just dropping off the no later, so it's a preferred time of 6 p.m, so everyone knows.
Yeah, okay,
where we're
yeah, I'm
going.
happy with that.
You have to do that.
Do you want to do that for the other two as
Yeah, I
well?
would, yeah, just in case we've got one urgent item and someone needs to.
Yeah.
So,
So Kel, can you take, yeah, you got that. So just for clarity, number 2, hold the first meeting of the month at Yulbar in October, at Mitchell in November, and at Injune in February 2023, with the preferred, what did we end up going?
or should we,
Preferred finish time 6 p.m. And then number 7, hold the first meeting of the month of March 2023 in Surat with a preferred finish time of 6 p.m.
okay, I'm happy with that as a seconder. Does the mover wish to speak to the motion?
No, thanks.
Does anyone wish to speak against the motion? Then we're going to go to the vote, or does anyone wish to speak for the motion? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? All those
Yes.
against? So that is 7-2, if I can call for division. Okay, moving on. Well, do we need to remove the one that we've done, or just,
Special meeting.
yeah, do we have to remove it, CO?
Yeah, just
It was
wait a
already
second.
done.
I'm just zipping some stuff down.
Okay, so, okay, we've got something on the screen. Can everyone see that? Well, I'll move that this item be removed from the agenda. This item was considered a special meeting on the 21st of September 2022. That's procedural. Does it need a seconder?
I would get a seconder just for completeness.
Righto. Councillor McMullen is the seconder. All those in favour?
Yes.
Okay, moving on. Page 52. 10.2, Horizon CHL Agreement. We have a mover, Councillor McMullen.
The Mayor, I'll move that council review the original agreement. Council meet with Community Housing Limited CHL with a view to 1, review the original agreement, 2, commence discussions around a new or renewal of the existing agreement to ensure better housing outcomes for the region.
We have a seconder, Councillor Burkett. Any opposition?
Have a quick question.
Please go ahead.
Through you, Mr Mayor. Mamsio, just page 60, right down the bottom in the considerations, it says that this is due to expire in 2013. Is that meant to be 2023?
Yeah, through the chair. Yeah, absolutely right, councillor.
Okay, sure. Thank
2023.
you.
Okay, does anyone wish to speak? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
9-0. Okay, moving on. Tender, item 11.1, tender process and proposed improvements. I'd like to move that council,
Excuse me, Mr Mayor. I have conflict of interest.
please go ahead.
I'd like to declare a conflict of interest on item 11.1, tender process and proposed improvements. Declaring councillor as Councillor Joanne Hancock. Person with interest is GL and JM Hancock, my husband and myself. Particulars of interest is our business, Surat Post News Proprietary Limited, supply goods to council on an ad hoc basis. Type of conflict is declarable conflict of interest. Action is, although I have a declarable conflict of interest, I do not believe a reasonable person could have a perception of bias. Therefore, I will choose to remain in the meeting. However, I will respect the decision of the meeting on whether I can remain and participate in the decision.
Councillor Hancock, do you do tenders
I
or
don't,
just normal purchasing?
it is normal purchasing.
Yeah, so it's not tenders? No, so this is about tenders, I believe.
Well, the report applies to the following organisations: existing council suppliers.
Yep.
Yeah, but it's about the tender process, isn't it?
Yeah,
So,
look, through the chair, it's regional policy setting, and you're looking at improvements to regional policy settings and processes that sit behind that. I recognise that at the Bush Councils, Councillor Hancock advised the chamber that she'd had some advice that she should declare. There's no reason that the councillor can't declare. It's just that it is a regional policy issue. So that's a matter for the councillor.
yeah. But my question is, in being able to decide this, is the councillor has said that she doesn't do tenders, and this is a tender process. Is that correct? Because we've been through panels and so forth, so this is about the tender.
Yeah, through the chair, it's about the streamlining of the process.
To do with tenders?
To do with tender process and procurement in general. Yep.
And procurement in general.
Yep.
Well, yeah.
It's going to map the current state, so this will require information from suppliers. Anyway, I've put my conflict to the floor.
Councillor Taylor?
I'd like that it is in the public interest that Councillor Hancock participates and votes on agenda item 11.1 because a reasonable person would trust that the decision is made in the public interest.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor McMullen. So, just more questions on that before I decide which way to vote. Is this not about tenders? It's obviously about tenders, but are we talking about changing our panels or our tender process?
Yep. Look, through the chair, I believe that the genesis of the report, which was raised by you, was really about streamlining the process to make it easier and the concentration was around tenders, and certainly that the motion itself was to council to receive a report about the current tender process and propose improvements to the process, which would see business improvements for staff and customers. And I think the narrative was around that we've currently got a 15-page response process, and it was about streamlining that.
Yeah, okay. So as far as I understand, when I moved to council to receive a report about the current tender process and proposed improvements to the process, which would see business improvements for staff and customers. So I would say it's about the tender process. Okay, so we have a mover and a seconder. We can go to voting on that. All those in favour?
Yes.
8-1. No,
8-0.
8-0, I should say. Okay, I'd like to move the council accept the proposed project approach suggested in the report with some amendments. One is to remove on point 1, yet maintaining market tension. I think, so I would like to remove that. And also, so does everyone understand that would be removed? On point 1, page 63, yet maintaining market tension, because I think that's actually one of the problems. And also, point 2, include in that consultation with Have Your Say platforms and asking the community in general that has dealt with council in the past, what are the issues with tender process to be included, as well as requiring information from the following stakeholders. Because if you're not a current supplier because you've given up on council, then it won't be in there anyway. So I think we need consultation to be included. Have Your Say, physical consultation, and as Councillor Taylor has also said before, maybe we need to have some form of meeting, because a lot of it will also be current people, but it will be people that have given up on the system. So I'd like to add that in point 2, that it would be other public meeting consultation, Have Your Say consultation, and general consultation in the local areas about how council can be a better customer to deal with, which will give productivity improvements to council. So that's in point 2. The rest of it I'm happy with. Councillor Taylor?
Just a question then on, as you say, get them in the room. I've been waiting 2 years now. Can we put a time frame on this at all?
Well, CEO, what do you think?
Yeah, look, through the chair, councillors, it's whatever you vote, whatever the recommendation, the motion is that you propose and vote on. If you want to do that, by all means. At this stage, the mayor's just, you've got quite a simple recommendation here. The mayor's proposing some adjustments. By all means, if the mayor's in agreement in relation to a specific date, you can do that, or within 3 months, or something like
We
that.
just seem to talk about it. We don't seem to do anything.
Yep. Do you want to?
Yeah,
make
I'm
a
happy to
timeframe
put in
within 3
there
months, or-
within 3 months to have the report back to council. And do we have a seconder for this motion? Councillor Burkett. And I'll speak to the motion.
Could you take a question?
Please go ahead.
In relation to what you've moved in removing yet maintaining market tension, could you just articulate why that's been removed?
Yeah, no, well, I'm happy to do that. I think market tension is actually been driving most of what is happening in our procurement, and it is failing. We have sometimes nobody that tenders for things. We also sometimes have only one tender. The market tension, I believe, is scaring people away. Like, we've got a local government act that we need to operate under, and I think we can even divert from procurement policy, but the tension is actually making us less competitive and actually making council pay more, because people are so busy today, they haven't got time for a convoluted system when they can get work from other people that don't ask them for any of that. So the market tension, I believe, is the problem. But anyway, I'll speak to the motion. I do believe that council is not receiving value for money, basically because council is not a good customer sometimes. We do have a tender process over $200,000. We totally understand that. But when I talk to suppliers, dealing with Maranoa is different to dealing with other councils. I do notice that we also can have expressions of interest that could go out first. There can be many other ways that we can look at it, and we're actually trying to avoid market tension and just get as many people putting their hands forward. It's very, very expensive to do up tenders. And if you've got a situation that most people will be unsuccessful out of a tender, that's a loss of income. So I do believe that there's got to be more creative ways that we can actually get better value for money. One of the things under the Local Government Act is that we need to create competitive local business. And when we don't have local business even tendering for our work, or only one tender, that's not creating competitive local business. So I think a total reform in this area is needed, and looking at it creatively, look at what other councils have done, how they deal with those problems, because if people want to run away from doing a large tender process, the ratepayers of the Maranoa are the ones that lose out of this. Okay, does someone wish to speak against the motion or for the
I
motion?
just have a question, Mr.
Please go ahead.
Because I'm still struggling with the market tension bit. Can you please give me, yourself or the CEO, an example of now how we keep market tension in the process, just so I can understand what we're taking out?
Yes, certainly, through the chair. Look, I do have, oh no, I don't, actually. Sorry, I'm sorry. Eric, our Director of Corporate Services, I might ask him to provide some response with that.
Just as an example, so I can understand.
You might have to cut.
Could you
forward,
please
please.
just come forward,
Speak
just
to
so,
them
just turn that microphone
light
on and
on.
just, great, brilliant, thank you very much.
Yeah, sorry. So in response to that, what we do from a tendering process is we put a proposal forward to the market. We invite tenderers to response. We advertise ourselves through various channels with regards to what our requirements are. Depending on the size of the particular scope of work, may require certain arrangements, such as a management plan, such as a safety plan that might need to be required under our procurement processes. And then we try and evaluate each of those tenderers who do respond by certain criteria, and as part of our procurement process, we also include that the 5-star rating as part of that particular process in trying to identify the different type of criteria to come up with the best outcome. That is our current process at this particular point in time. Once we go through that particular criteria and evaluate that criteria, we then identify who the successful tenderer is. We notify those particular organisations, and then we move forward from there. That's probably that in a nutshell.
So, thank you, and that's a process. So if we were to remove yet maintaining market tension,
Yes.
what does that mean as part of the process? Like, what do you mean by having that in there, and what would it mean by taking it out? What is market tension to you?
To me, from a financial perspective, a lot of it would be a lot of it would be around, and it does come back to the criteria. One of the criteria would be their pricing. So that would be a part of that particular criteria. The second thing would be around their capability and their expertise in the area. And depending on the size of the particular package that we're talking about, certain organisations might not have the entire capability to perform that particular work, and therefore we may not rate them as highly as what we would with some other organisations. So from removing the word market tension, I dare say a fair bit of it would come back to, for me, my initial interpretation would be around pricing in particular.
So does that mean that we're going to be removing affordable pricing? Like, how, as an officer, how by removing that does that give you, like, is that removing something that you need to be able to assess an application, or is it?
Look,
Tension is the wrong word. I'm thinking tension's a wrong word. It's more about, I don't think affordability is the right word either. But
market tension is a word to use when procurement talks about their value for money. So what they're trying to do is they're saying we're trying to keep market tension between the various suppliers and vendors throughout the region, or wherever they're coming from, in order to get the best value for money for the organisation.
And just through the chair, Eric, the council has spent a lot of time on their procurement policy, especially around how to get equitable pricing, but making sure market tension exists. But their policy settings actually have certainly swung in the way of supporting, local.
Yes. So we provide.
Is that more consistent with the current policy settings, or is it, is it necessary? Is that wording necessary?
Yeah, that's a hard question to answer.
Sorry, and apologies for that.
It's a very hard question to answer. I think it would probably, to me, in my initial response, and it depends on the type of package you're talking about from a tendering process. But to me, it probably would start to swing more towards a local perspective rather than, that's my version at this particular point in time.
Councillor McMullen.
In line, I agree with, I was waiting, I agree with what Councillor Hancock said. I'm not having a go at anyone. The tension, the general public, they see the tension, and I believe they look at the process and they just throw it away because that's the tension I was thinking of.
Tension seems negative if you put yet maintaining value for money.
Yeah.
That we all understand that.
Yeah, but it's not tension as in causing tension of the rope. It depends how people interpret it.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes.
Like you don't want the rope to sag in the middle.
Can we just keep going with the?
I have one more question then.
Please go ahead.
we already have a procurement policy that takes up our tender process, isn't it?
Yes, through the chair.
So what then, is this going to be in direct competition to our procurement policy? Or is it going to, does it fall in under our procurement policy?
Chair, it will fall under the policy. Why? Is because it's a procedural setting. It's about streamlining the processes that are attached to that. It's a good question to ask around, is the word market tension actually supporting the policy that we spent a lot of time on endorsing? And I think that that's a matter for yourselves as council. Clearly, you've got the mayor's position where he's saying, actually, I'd like to remove the market tension. Why? Because I'm not speaking for you, Mr. Mayor, but the assumption I'm taking is that you're actually trying to support, a stronger commitment to local purchasing. And but certainly, as the director has said, he's saying is that that does centre around competitive pricing. And again, that's really a matter for council if you want to take that out. Certainly, the mayor's view is that you don't need that. I certainly think that the paragraph talks about what's important too, which is legislative obligations and good procurement practices. So to remove that, to my mind, is still consistent with the broader statutory requirement around procurement. It's just about, is market tension really what you're after? And through the chair, I think you have worked your policy up in a way to see maybe a little bit of relaxation of tension, Director, because really there is a clear advantage to be local in your procurement policy that you've adopted in version 7, which is certainly giving local contractors a 20% head start. So in essence, you could argue that it's in conflict with your latest policy.
Okay, righto, we'll
Long
keep
way of
going
saying
with
that.
the debate.
Apologies.
Does anyone wish to speak against the motion?
Question.
Please go ahead.
So clear, this is a project, and the outcomes of that project or the findings of that project will come back to council for further consideration, which may or may not mean an amendment to the policy.
Through the chair, you've always got that option, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, this is definitely coming back to council once we get all the findings of what this is.
Yeah.
Okay, does anyone else wish to speak against or for the motion? Then I'll sum up. So why I want to get rid of market tension is the theory of market tension is you've got everyone competing and you're getting the best possible price. Well, all of the contractors, all of the people have left the organisation and are not using the tender process. They've all gone. They've all decided your market tension, you can have it to yourself because we're busy in the real world just doing work and we don't need it. So basically get rid of that and just focus on value for money. Get rid of being able to deliver value for money and deal with a streamlined tender process, and this is what it's about. So I believe councillors should be really concerned about the situation, what we see in tenders now, where there is a lack of interest in even tendering to council. So this is about finding out what we need to do. How can we stick under the Local Government Act as far as procurement, but also make it so people want to deal with us? So on that note, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
9-0.
Councillor Burke.
Councillor Burkett. Righto. Item 12.1, unnamed road off Barnard Road, Roma. Councillor McMullen.
Mr Mayor, I'd like to move that council receive this report as follows up to resolution as a follow-up to resolution number 0M-03.2022-61 and name the unnamed section of roadway off Barnard Road as Carr Road.
Okay, I've got a question. What was the reason to go with Carr Road?
The original whole property was Carsley, owned originally by a chap by the name of Carr. My understanding, the property's still there on the corner, still known as Carsley. So
Page 75 gives fair reasons.
And so page 71 says that we can't because we already have a car road.
So page 71
Page
gives
71
fair
says
reasons
that-
why we can't do it.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a mover. Do we have a seconder for that motion?
Through you,
I think
Mr.
just ask
sorry.
the officer.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. No issue. We can work through this. The only trouble is there is a car road at the moment. It comes off Blue Hills Road and heads sort of south there. So we'll be just essentially naming two roads the same name. So we just want to make sure that
Mr.
yeah.
Mayor. And I understand what the officer's saying, I agree too, but one day they can be linked up legally. There's a road reserve right through there, isn't there? They could be linked up. It's a big, maybe we could call it,
Road East and
Car Road East, or whatever the direction is.
the other one, the one's already on there is Car Road, isn't it?
That's correct. It's just leaving two car roads at two entry points can be a bit dangerous from a.
Car Road West. I'll change that.
Can I ask a question? I see in the report that you've recommended not to have two roads the same. Is there a Sheaf Road in the Maranoa?
No, Mr. Mayor, not at the moment.
Right. And is there two sheafs that live on that road?
Own land.
Or own
No,
land on that road, I should say?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, yeah.
Yeah.
Right, Councillor McMullen, what did you want to change it
I'll
to?
change it to Car Road West.
Okay, do we have a seconder? Councillor Ladbroke, any opposition? I'll speak in opposition. Does the member wish to speak to the motion?
Mr. Mayor, as I just said before, that land's always been known as Carsley, originally, or years ago, owned by the Carr family. That was my reasoning behind it.
Okay, I'll speak in opposition. I did note Mr. Freeman's letter. However, we do have, if it's not a recommendation, a position that we try not to have two roads the same, and I do believe that's a real issue for, emergency services and so forth. And on that basis, I won't be supporting this motion because I believe there is no other Sheaf Road, and I think that would be the one that I think is most appropriate, as Mr. Sheaf has written in as well. So I think there was good consultation about this, and I don't believe in doubling up because I've heard so many problems with it that I don't think we should be creating another problem. Okay, does anyone else wish? Please go ahead.
Who?
Councillor Edwards, would you like to speak for the motion?
Yes.
Please go ahead.
Sorry, against the motion. Sorry.
Okay, so does someone wish to speak for the motion?
Just got a question.
Please go ahead.
Through the chair to the Deputy Director, by Councillor McMullen amending the resolution to Car West Road, does that now meet Council's road naming policy?
Through the chair there, it does, Councillor O'Neill. It's not ideal to have east, west and that, but there is practices out there where we do it. I can't sit here definitively say there's something that explicitly notes you cannot do east, west and that sort of thing. So it's not unlawful, legal. You can do it. So I just probably the only thing I would say is just chasing some clarity. I think the mover said Car Road West, and that was Car West Road. So we just before we go to vote, just
the wrong thing. What did you
I
say?
did Car Road West. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so does someone wish to speak for the motion or against the motion?
Yeah, I'll speak against.
Please go ahead.
Just looking here at what we've received in terms of letters, I note the one from Mr. Freeman, but also note the correspondence from the Chiefs as well. I think keep it fairly simple. That I'd be against Car Road. I think it should be Sheep Road because they're actually living there at the moment. They're the only ones there. And also, I agree with the policy there, which says basically that there's already a car road anyway. we're not terribly sure about Car Road West or Car Road East or North or South. So based on that, and also the fact that, yeah, it gets a bit confusing for, the services to find these places, especially when there's 2 car roads. So, yeah, I'd be voting against it.
Okay, does anyone wish to speak for the motion or against the motion? Does the mover wish to sum up?
Yeah, Mr Mayor, just a couple of things I've just picked up on as well. Just recently, Sunrise Road at Hodgson, you can actually drive from one end of it to the other, but we chose to call one end Sunrise West so we don't have to maintain the whole road. And I see this one very similar. There is a road reserve there, whilst the gates, the fences are probably across the road reserve. It's no different, I don't believe, to the Sunrise one in Hodgson.
Okay, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour? All those against?
Against?
5, that's 4-5.
4-5, the motion is lost. I'd like to move that council receive the report as followed up to resolution OM/03.2022-61 and name the unnamed section of the road off Barnard Road as Sheaf Road as outlined in the report. Do we have a seconder?
I'll second it.
Councillor, actually Guthrie was first. Any opposition?
Excuse me, Mr Mayor. Just wondering if we need, as outlined in the report, I think that was just...
Righto,
just the
okay.
name. because-
Sheaf Road. But I was just clarifying in case it had to be certain spelling, whatever, but that's fine.
It's just a suggestion, it's your
No, no.
motion.
Well, I don't mind, as long as it's got enough clarity, so that's fine. If is the seconder happy with that?
Yeah.
Okay, does anyone wish to speak for the motion or against the motion? Then we'll go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
All those against? 6-3 if I can call for a division. Okay, we'll break now. 14.1, request to purchase council land lot 2 on SP 212826. We have a mover, Councillor McMullen.
Mr Mayor, I'll move that council invite tenders to lease land located in Bassett Lane East, described as Lot 2 on SP 212826 for grazing purposes, with the conditions to include: A, the lessee must keep clear all livestock and equipment from the levy bank. B, council has unhindered access to the land. C, lease term 2 years with the option of a further 2.
So I just got a question on this one. Is there an easier way than a tender, just if we're just got some, obviously it's not going to be probably massive cost and that to do it, is that the best way to do it in your experience?
So there is some room for council to move depending on the values or the expected values of a contract. If it's deemed to be going to be rather low value, we've probably gone with the recommendation of a tender at this stage for a lease, being that one person has asked, we know of another party who's potentially interested, and in part of the investigations into the Boxthorn, we've found that there's a third party already using the site. And it looks like they have been using it for quite a while.
Yep.
So probably just that's why we're recommending the lease process. The lease for grazing documents are relatively simple.
Oh, yeah, so that's
For
a
people to
tender, but
complete.
it's a lease document, is it?
Yeah, so it's a tender for grazing.
Yeah, right, okay,
Yeah.
so it's not a majorly onerous document to fill
No,
out.
no.
Oh, that's good.
It
Councillor-
generally,
Mr Mayor, I know where this place is, obviously, but the only other people that might be interested would be neighbours, because...
yes, that's
this-
true.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Yeah.
Is that probably the
Okay,
case?
Councillor Edwards.
Thank you,
okay.
councillor.
Thank you.
Welcome. I've just joined. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, other people interested are neighbours, obviously.
Yes.
No
yes,
good
there
to anyone
is,
else.
Mayor. There is a third party using it that I don't believe owns land in that area, but they've been using it for quite a while.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, they wouldn't, to do a proper lease, you have to join the land anyway, like, because you can't go through
Somebody else's property.
property to get
That's
to
right,
it.
it's very, very difficult to access it, yes,
How do they do it then?
Well, we don't know.
yeah.
But my question was, is it the easiest way to get someone to encourage people to, and you think it is at the moment with the documents?
Well, through you, Mr Mayor, if council would prefer, we possibly could go through an expression of interest process in the first instance to see how much interest is out there before proceeding to a lease, yeah.
But then you've got two lots of things rather than just do this.
Yes. And through you,
Okay.
Mr Mayor, we have found in the past on occasion where we have done that on the expression of interest and then a tender, people tend to get a little bit confused because I think they've already submitted something to council and they're asking for another document.
Okay, I was just wondering if there's a simpler thing.
Yeah.
Okay, do we have a question, councillor Taylor, or you happy to second? You're right? Okay, does anyone wish to speak to it? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
9-0. Okay, moving on.
Page 99.
Okay, item 14.2, Grazing Council Land Policy. Do we have a mover?
I have a question.
Please go ahead.
Through you, Mr Mayor, Manager Tanya, on page 106 of the policy, can you explain what it means when it says contribution to the local economy?
Through you, Mr Mayor, that's a fairly kind of standard criteria that we often include in our leases for land. It's just another criteria that council can look at. So they often look at the plans, the lease price, and also that's often included is contribution to the local community.
Would you be able to give me an
Sure.
example on something that you would, would be that you'd look, that would help you make that decision?
Through you, Mr Mayor, it could be something along the lines of someone who's got a grazing permit and they're using it as part of a business, for example. Yeah,
But for their work?
but yes,
Yeah.
yes,
So
or yes,
work over recreation,
yes.
maybe?
Yeah, because sometimes,
contributing-
yeah.
Some sort of a business contributing to the economy. Is that, am I hearing that right?
Yeah, and we've been in the past requested to include the criteria. It could be somebody who, for example, might work in a job that requires horses as part of it, and it gives them council the opportunity to recognise that that's part of the economy, rather than someone who may have just horses for recreation.
Sure, that makes sense. I
Yeah.
just wanted to
Yeah.
clarify.
I've got a question.
Yes.
With this, I note in there that it's 5%, which is not a lot of difference if it's someone continuing. Is there any time saving for council officers if the same person continues in there? Like, is there any benefits for council if the same person continues as far as operating council and time of officers?
Through you, Mr Mayor, it would of course be easier if you have the same person continue on. However, under the local government legislation, even a lease is like granting someone the right to land. So under the legislation, it has to be via tender. If it's
No,
a
I
lease.
don't mean the paperwork, but what I mean is there a time benefit if the same person ends up with it? Then is there less time than dealing with new people every time, hypothetically, if they get it?
Through you, Mr Mayor, I imagine that if we're going out for tender and the same person gets it, I mean, it's probably taken less time in terms of familiarising them with it, setting them up in the debtor system. But other than that, it's probably much the same process. They'd still need documentation.
Definitely for the
yeah.
tender side of it.
Yeah, yeah.
Councillor
No, I'm
McMahon.
just going to make a comment, Mr Mayor, in light of what Manager Tanya said. contribution to the local economy. I haven't seen anyone that owns a horse yet that hasn't contributed to the economy because,
By feed.
well, I mean, yeah, and I'm not being smart or anything, but, you know, owning a horse. And
Councillor Burkett, then Hancock.
Yeah, well, I was just with that, the 5% thing. So the situation, I think we talked about it. There was a change over the existing people. There's 2 people put in for 80 acres in Mitchell.
That's correct. That's
Is
where
this,
this has come
so
from.
this has changed from that?
So, so through you, Mr Mayor, it was as part of that decision-making
Yeah.
on that tender for that 80 acres.
Bit of
on-
loyalty.
Yeah. As part of that, there was a resolution where council asked that a grazing policy be brought back to council, and that's what this is. I mean, this is council's policy. If this is only a draft, if there's something in here that you feel needs to change, that's for councillors to decide.
Councillor Hancock, and then O'Neill.
So, just a question on that, Tanya, if you can just explain, when I read this, I was thinking, is this actually legal to be able to put a 5% loading for a loyalty program? Because I understand the intention of it, right? But I'm actually made me stop and think about whether it's actually legal. We can actually do this because why are we going out to tender in the first place? Like, isn't that so that it becomes an equitable across the community to be able to put in for that parcel of land? If we are putting loading, then it's not equitable across the community. So I'm just really concerned about why go out if we're going to actually continue giving it to that same person, and whether we can actually legally do that.
Yeah, look, I'll just pop in here. The reason we are bound by the sound contracting principles. So when we have a procurement process where you're comparing two applicants for, against each other, value for money considerations would also be take into account pricing. If you want to step away from those sound contracting principles, you need to have a policy framework that allows you to do things differently and give good context within that policy setting as to why you're doing that. And certainly what a grazing policy allows you to do that. So yes, it supports that you're going outside those sound contracting principles, which can be purely competitive in nature, and saying you want more nuanced decisions, and these are the criteria that's involved in that. And by having something as simple as a community contribution criteria, is you're meeting your public interest tests. You're starting to get that information back to say, if we had two applicants, they were side by side, they both were very, they're offering the same things, as how do you actually pull those apart and choose one person from another? And that's where your policy settings can really help you.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, can we actually put the loading on it? You're saying that we can.
In a policy setting, you're setting the criteria for what you do in relation to grazing land. So this allows you to set a broad framework at a regional perspective that allows you to use that criteria in the way you go out to tender and what you specify as a response in that tender. Otherwise, you would have those tensions between what the sound contracting principles are and what you want to do. And so policy setting is often the solution.
Do you think it may, and I don't know, I'm just asking this to try and, I have made no decision, but do you think it may look from the community that council's already chosen, because we're going to give a weight, that they've already chosen the person that they want to go for because they're waiting towards that person, and so therefore they wouldn't bother? So I'm just concerned we might get the same thing that we...
The advantage of a policy is that your community can challenge you. I don't agree with that policy, I do agree with that policy and those things, but you're actually making that transparent. Here's our argument, we're putting it in a policy setting, and we'll adopt that policy and we'll follow that policy. Community can always provide feedback,
Councillor O'Neill.
I'm happy to move something.
Go ahead.
I'll move that council adopt the grazing land policy, but with the removal of that particular paragraph on page 106, which starts with council will have the option of allocating and finishes with grazing fees to council. That paragraph is removed, and I'll move the policy.
What paragraph was
So
that?
this is page 106 and it's clause 6 and it's the last paragraph in that.
Yeah, that's probably
.9, is it?
No, it's the last. I'm removing the last paragraph of part 6 of the policy.
So the 5% thing.
Yeah.
Do we have a seconder for that? Councillor Hancock. Any opposition? I'll speak in opposition. Does the mover wish to speak to the motion?
I do. I mean, at the end of the day, and there might be a time pressure on this, this would have been good to come to a briefing to have a conversation about, as we have done with other policies. But I'm moving this because the policy states that in terms of awarding tenure, if you like, over the grazing of council land, it's for a period of 2 years with an option of 2. I think by putting on a loading, you are putting an advantage to someone that has already won the tender or won the rights to that land. I accept there are arguments around loading when it comes to tender for the procurement of goods and that loading on locals. I don't think we should be pitting locals against locals in terms of giving an advantage to someone that has been able to get their foot through the door and have an agreement with council over council land. I believe it should be open and transparent. The timeframes are clear, 2 years plus 2, and then when that period is up, it goes to an open process where everyone is on a level playing field, regardless of whether they have had an agreement or not over that land. And it'll be a competitive process based on the other conditions of the policy.
Okay, I'll speak against the motion. I disagree with this. I'm happy with what the report says. The only thing I'd like to see is it should be 10%. The overall loading is in recognition of the tenant's performance in managing the land and paying the grazing fees to council. Everyone will get the same opportunity. There is cost savings, I believe, to the organisation once the tender process, which is open to everyone, is finalised. I do believe that we need to show some recognition of the previous performance of the tenants, and so I certainly won't be supporting taking that out. I don't believe that's moving forward efficiently as far as giving everyone the same opportunity. Okay, does anyone else wish to speak for the motion? Councillor Hancock.
Yeah, I'm supporting this motion with that removed, simply because I just think the process that stands where the grazing leases come up, it is actually to provide the community with an equitable playing field to be able to apply for plots, grazing leases. Situations change throughout the community, and there may be people who have moved into our community and really are requiring that livability that they might require parcels of land to be able to do their job. By not providing the equal opportunity for these people when they come into our community, or whether they are already living in our community and the circumstances change, it's just not a level playing field. Now, I have no problem with the fact that the person who has previously had the parcel of land, they have done a really good job at looking after it, and I'm sure that they will state that in their application, and that will already have been weighted when it's looking at the application. But I just think the process needs to be of a level playing field across the community. And I just don't think that we should be opening up a tender that has already pre-existing advantages to one of the tenderers. I just don't think that's open and transparent. I don't think that it's moving forward. I think that it's actually reducing the livability of our area, and it's not providing equal opportunity to our community.
Does anyone else wish to speak against the motion?
I'd just like probably more comments. This particular parcel of land has never been leased out by council. To best of one, it hasn't been. The people that now own the front of it, what I should be saying is nobody can lease it. You've got to be
Councillor McMullen, this is the policy. We're not talking about any land. It's page 99.
This is a grazing council.
But are you talking about previous ones where you've seen it happening?
It can't. It can only be one of 3 people can get a lease on this.
This is a policy.
It doesn't matter. It's going to be.
It's not about anyone in in particular or any parcel of land. This is a policy of all land available.
Yeah, but this is about having a weighting on it, on our policy to streamline it in the future. Now, does anyone wish to speak against the motion or for the motion? Then we'll go to the vote. Does the mover wish to sum up?
I do, thank you. If council wants an open and fair, transparent process, that our community is on a equal platform, adopt this policy as I've just moved. If you vote against this, there is, in the first year that we enact this, everyone's in the same position. At year 4, if they take up their option, they are those people that have are awarded the grazing rights will have an advantage over other members of the community that then would tender for that same grazing parcel of land. That is not fair and equitable. The policy, as I've moved with the removal of that particular condition, is open and transparent and fair to the entire community.
Okay, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour? All those against?
Against.
6-3 if I can call for a division. I'd like to move that...
Sorry. It's just 3-6, yep.
6, I should say. Okay, I'd like to move that council adopt the Grazing Council land policy as presented. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Ladbrook, any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? I'll speak to it. I do believe there is such a thing as loyalty. I do believe that if someone has been doing a good job, 5% is a very small amount. I do believe it costs council money to keep changing. So this is a very small weighting. I'd probably even consider something stronger than that, but I'm willing to support this motion to try it and see if it has any deleterious effects on that. And I'd just like to correct the fact that when we go to tender, everyone will have the same opportunity. There will just be a weighting based on the performance of the last person. And I have had feedback that people can lose it and they know about the land that they're looking after. I do believe this is actually very fair and a positive report that's been developed by the officers. Does anyone wish to speak against the motion? Councillor O'Neill.
I'm speaking against this motion, not in its entirety, but the last paragraph of point 6, by allocating an additional 5% on the successful tender in future tenders in terms of the access to grazing land. You are giving them an advantage over other people in our community. It isn't a level playing field. They will have an advantage over the other people that also submit competitive tenders to this process. I don't believe that's fair and equitable, and I don't think it's in the best interest of the community.
Okay, does anyone wish to speak for the motion?
May I just
McMahon?
like that say? Whilst this was never in the policy, we did allocate, I suppose, some tenders based on this in the past because of tenants' previous record.
With all due respect, Deputy Mayor, this is a new policy.
But what I'm saying, Councillor O'Neill, we have used this in the past.
We haven't got a grazing land policy.
No, but we have used this, what you're wanting removed. We have assessed people on that basis, that they didn't perform in the previous agreement.
Lease.
And then so they didn't get it the second time.
That's in a policy, is it?
No, but we did it on assessment.
Excuse me, Councillor McMullen's allowed to speak. He's speaking to the motion.
We did it as an assessment.
Okay. Does someone wish to speak against the motion? Councillor Hancock?
Yeah, I'm speaking against the motion. As I previously said, that I just don't think it's a level playing field, however you dress it up. It's not. There's a loading on it. I suppose what Councillor McMullen was saying is exactly what I said before, that when the tender process happens, that their history is already taken into account. And that happened without it having to be in the policy. So I don't think that there is a need for it to be in this policy. I do believe that it should be open and level playing field. And I also don't see the cost saving to council due to the fact that tenders going out and tender papers being redone no matter who does it. There's still got to be a new set of tender papers. That's a cost to council no matter who gets a tender, so I can't see those cost savings.
Just a comment.
Sorry, are you speaking for or against?
I'm just making a comment. That's been done numerous times, isn't it?
Oh, normally the mayor calls. that's
Well,
all.
I
Don't worry, I'll put it in.
would you like to speak for or against the
No,
motion?
I won't do it.
Righto. Okay, does anyone else wish to speak for or against the motion? I will sum up and say there is a cost saving, as it was said by the officer, that there may be a new builder code that needs to be set up. There may be new arrangements that need to be set up once the tender has been awarded. So there is a cost saving in being able to have a loading that will be taken in consideration. If everyone puts their best foot forward, this is not going to change an outcome if it is more than the 5%. So I think this is actually in favour of the ratepayers of the Maranoa. So we'll go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
All those against? 6-3 if I can call for a division. 14.3, request for sponsorship, Roma and District of Eisteddfod. Do we have a mover? Councillor Burkett.
I'd like to move that Council 1 approve sponsorship payment of $3,000 to be allocated from the sponsorship budget GL 2887.2249.2001 to offer the Roma and District of Eisteddfod Committee in-kind assistance with administrative tasks up to the value of $1,000 from GL 2887.2246.2001. 3, approve the setup fee waiver for the use of the auditorium and Ernest Brock room to the amount of $234.80 to be allocated to GL 2887.2246.2001.
Councillor Taylor was first for a seconder, I believe.
I will second it. I just have one question.
Oh, you got a question?
Through you, Mr Mayor, the CEO, the sponsorship budget, we were being told in the reports at some stage.
Excuse me, Chair. Sorry, Councillor Edwards here. Sorry to interrupt, but I'll have to leave the meeting.
Righto, thank
Return
you.
later. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mark.
Councillor Taylor, please go ahead.
The sponsorship budget, we were getting told what we're up to as far as that goes in the reports. I don't see that anymore.
Okay. Look, through the chair, I've just emailed someone to get that information for us.
Thank you.
Okay, but
Just
you're
to
happy
keep
to
an eye-
second it?
Yeah, just to keep an eye on the budget, that's all.
Yes.
Yes, I'm happy to second.
So we've got a mover and a seconder. Anybody wish to speak to the motion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Burkett?
I think it's a great committee that these guys, and it's a great organisation and event that they put on, and all the kids in the whole across the region get the opportunity to show their wares, and so fully supportive of this.
Do you wish to speak?
I've got a question.
Please go ahead.
Through the chair, just in relation to Councillor Taylor's question to the CEO, how quickly do you think that information would come back?
Look, through the chair, I'm not quite sure, but I'm hoping within the hour.
Mayor, I'll move that this lays on the table until later in the meeting when that information is provided to council.
Okay, all those in favour? All those against? That's 3-5 if I call for a division. Okay, we have a mover and a seconder. Does someone wish to speak to the motion?
I just did, so it's...
Yeah, but anybody else? Councillor Guthrie?
Can I just say that historically we have a very, very strong group of volunteers that enable the Eisteddfod to occur every year. And just seconding also what Councillor Burkett said, it's highly regarded and it's a great opportunity for kids to be able to showcase and be involved and gain public confidence. It's a great program.
Okay,
Just got another question.
please go ahead.
Mr Mayor, just to the room probably, just so I've got some level of comfort, is everyone confident that GL 287224920001 still has an allocation in it?
Well, it should be.
Everyone's...
Well, it says that approved sponsorship budget and the officers have done it, so I'm very happy with that. That says that there is money in the budget. Okay, I'll speak to the motion. What a wonderful organisation and a group of volunteers that do fantastic work, as it's been said, bringing all of the children in the region together. You know, I've been there and seen some of the performances and the encouragement that's shown by the judges, and I certainly believe that this should be supported, and I'm very heartened to say that since I have been on council every year, from my memory, that council has always supported this event, and it's a wonderful thing for the region. Does anyone else wish to speak? And does the mover wish to sum up?
No, thanks, Mr Mayor.
We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0. Item 14.4, conversion of state lease land policy. Do we have a mover? I'd like to move that council adopt the conversion of state lease land policy as presented. Do we have a seconder?
I have a question.
Councillor McMullen. Please go ahead, Councillor Hancock.
Through you, Mr Mayor, I'm just wondering, Manager Tenure, is this a new policy or have we got an existing policy already?
No, through you, Mr Mayor, this is a brand new policy, but it's really just reflecting what councils currently does. We have put, so these are where council gets requests from the state to give advice on requests that landholders are put into freehold. So it's generally from people who have had grazing homestead perpetual leases. You know, and some of those are going back for generations and they're looking to freehold them. So it's a brand new policy. So we're looking to streamline that process so that if it meets the criteria, a delegated officer, the CEO or delegated officer can send the advice back and say no objection. But if there is anything that raises it as an objection, that it comes back to the council meeting for decision.
So if staff have any objection, they will come to the council meeting?
Yes.
If there's any concern?
Yes, that's right.
Otherwise we'll just go through.
If it's a straight, how the policy is written, if it's straightforward, the delegated officer will be able to respond to the department and say no objection. If there is any issue at all, it comes back to council meeting for decision.
Okay, does anyone wish to speak to the motion? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0. Thank you. Page 118, 14.5, Cafe on Second, option to renew lease. Councillor Guthrie.
I'd like to move that Council 1 approve the extension of the in-June commercial space lease agreement for a further 1-year term until the 2nd of July 2023, and 2, authorise the Chief Executive Officer or delegate to sign documentation relating to the renewal of the lease.
We have a seconder, Councillor McMullen. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it?
Can I just say that since this has actually been signed off 12 months ago, the cafe has gone from strength to strength. It's increased the number of people accessing it, it's increased the hours, and it's increased the number of people working there. So it's just been a win-win and a very positive thing. Really well done.
Okay, I'll speak to the motion. Yeah, I agree. What a wonderful business and local people involved, and every time you go in there, it's just crazy busy, and what a wonderful facility and service that they provide, getting people together over great food and also great company. So it's certainly, wonderful to see it going from strength to strength in June. Does anyone else wish to speak? We're going to go, does the mover wish to sum up?
No.
We'll go to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0. Okay, item 14.6, Queensland Remembers Grant Program. Do we have a mover? Councillor Hancock.
I'm happy to move, Mr Mayor. I just want to clarify in the point 2 where it says include a co-contribution of amount of at least 10% of the total project cost in cash and in-kind assistance to support the grant. Council officers must identify and confirm this funding in the Q1 budget review. I did email the CEO with an S170A, which Edwina responded to. Thank you. Just saying, normally our best practice is to know where we're getting that money before we commit. And I understand that we just need this because the grant's got to be put in early next week. There is two spots. There's two. CEO's provided me with two GL numbers. One is a sponsorship, one's in kind. If I put it to a sponsorship, if I just put to the sponsorship one now, we don't know how much is in that budget. I'm just trying. Can it be changed at the quarter? I just think for me to be comfortable, we need to know that we've got the money, and then if we need to change where that's coming from in a quarter one review, I'm happy to do that.
Yep. Yeah, so certainly through the chair and just upon subsequent advice with the local area director, he's informed me that the split would be 1250, so 1250 cash and 1250 in kind. And yes, you could do that, and of course you could amend at the budget review or even at any point once if the grant's been successful. And clean that up at the other end too. But at least this way, you're saying the council's intention would be, a combination of cash and in kind, along with the grant application to support the grant application.
Yeah. So I might just put in the two GL numbers.
Yes. So certainly, I'll just.
But I'm just wondering if we should, Madam CEO. Should we lay this on the table just to get that sponsorship, just to make sure that we've got the money in there now?
Through the chair, I guess my recommendation would be to you is that I think you can safely pass the resolution. I think you've got a quarter one budget review milestone where you could certainly have a look at that again, but we could also double check that as ourselves. And if for some reason there was not enough in the budget, that might trigger a budget review in itself.
Come back. When is the quarter one budget review?
Due? The end of October. Okay. So within 2 meetings.
Okay, thank you. So if we could just change that and pop in those two.
My view is that we definitely have enough unallocated cash to be able to cover a motion of council. So I would, my view is I don't think it's an issue as long as we've got cash to cover it when we make a decision. But please go ahead, Councillor Hancock.
Council 1 apply for the funding for the project as proposed by RSL Surat to an estimated project value of $25,000. Noting the need to check and, if necessary, seek the relevant heritage listing approvals. 2, include a co-contribution amount of at least 10% of the total project cost in cash and in-kind assistance to support the grant. Include a co-contribution amount of at least 10% of the total project cost in cash, GL. Got it here. GL 2887.2249.2001 sponsorship and in-kind assistance, GL 2887.2246 in-kind minor to support the grant. 3, authorise the Chief Executive Officer or Delegate to sign the funding application. 4, authorise the Chief Executive Officer or Delegate to sign the funding agreements as required if the project is successful.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Ladbrook, any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it?
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Yes, thank you. I just wanted to say thanks to the staff for bringing this forward. It's a wonderful opportunity. When you get these opportunities to apply for grants to better facilities in our community, I just think we should be grabbing it at both hands. And a 10% contribution isn't a large contribution to support, especially when you can break that up into cash and in-kind assistance. And so I fully support the application for the upgrades as proposed for the RSL Surat.
I'll speak to the motion. I've been very happy that we have been progressing with RSLs about upgrading part of our facilities of remembrance and so forth, and very happy to support this to be happening at Surat. And anything that we can do is not only part of council's responsibilities, but also it's great to work with the local RSLs to deliver this if we can get this funding.
You seconding that motion?
No, councillor Ladbroke
Ladbroke
seconded.
seconded, yeah.
Right.
Okay, does anyone else wish to speak to the motion or anyway?
So I
For
did
or
read,
against?
sorry, Mr Mayor, just so we know what we're voting on. In point 2, Cal, I didn't include council officers must identify. I just did full stop at support the grant. And then at budget review, if that needs to be assessed, we can come back. Mr Mayor, I'd love to sum up if anyone.
Please go ahead.
I just also want to acknowledge I noticed in the report that the Surat RSL has also offered to do in-kind work to assist the grant as well and to assist the upgrades to that facility. And so I just want to thank you for their volunteer work within our community.
Okay, on that note, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0.
That's still not wrong.
Okay, we'll do the late open. L.1 Community arrangements for the passing of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II.
Through the chair, we haven't had to spend that money during that period. We've actually had no request for that.
So I'd like to move that council appreciate the messages of condolences that have been received in the official mourning period, and note that council has not needed to implement any financial costs from this report.
I'll second that.
We have a seconder, councillor Ladbroke. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0. L2, review of report deadlines, council meetings. Do we have a mover? Councillor McMullen.
Mr Mayor, I move that council endorse the proposed ordinary meeting deadline schedule and issue the ordinary meeting agenda on the Thursday prior to the meeting. 2, council acknowledge that for special meetings, best endeavours will be used to maximise the time available for reviews of reports by councillors. 3, the briefing agenda be issued by no later than close of business 5 p.m. on Monday, the week of the briefing.
Okay, do we have a seconder? Councillor Guthrie. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak?
Yes, thanks.
Please go ahead, councillor Hancock.
Yeah, thanks, Mr Mayor. I will be supporting this this resolution because I actually personally believe that our previous resolution on this matter was never achievable for the organisation, and this is much more achievable for our organisation where we'll take the pressure off our organisation immensely. So I fully support this resolution.
Okay, does anyone else wish to speak for or against the motion? Then we'll go to the vote then. All those in favour? 8-0. L.3 Signage for the 2022 Sculptures Outback car park.
No, hooked up in there.
Beg pardon?
I just don't have this agenda.
Oh, you don't have that one? Well, we'll just adjourn while...
No, it's all right, I'll just read it off here. I've seen it, but I can't find it. It's all right.
But you've read it, so you're right?
I must have
Yeah.
left it at home.
Yeah. I'd like to move the council assist the Sculptures Outback through the supply of additional electronic signage for the remainder of the display period. From now, it's obviously changed from September 28 to 22nd of October 2022 for up to $1,500 from sponsorship budget GL 2887.2249.2001. Okay, we have a seconder, councillor McMullen.
Just a question.
Please go ahead.
As the author of the report, you're confident that sponsorship budget GL 288722492001 has the required amount in it to be able to allocate in this report?
That was the advice that I received, that officers helped with that part of it, and that's where that came from.
And through the chair, the current balance is 35,500.
And my view is that as long as we've got unallocated cash and that we can cover it, and I'm confident that we have that to be able to do it anyway. Okay, so I'll speak to this. Do think that there's some very positive things, making clearer to people not to have to just pull off on the side of the road, where it can be interesting that we actually we have a temporary car park that's got great parking and so forth, and letting people know about that is very positive. Okay, does anyone else wish to speak?
I just have a question.
Please go ahead.
So, Mr Mayor, there is some signage out there at the moment. Is this additional to that? Is this
Correct.
extra signage to that? And where is this extra signage going? Right around there as well, or?
I would leave that up to the officers. It's about when people see the sculptures that they go, oh, there's a car park up an extra 100 metres or so forth, rather than just wheeling off the road and in there, which is what has sometimes possibly occurred.
Okay, so somewhere around there. Okay.
But it's up to the officers, because that's like a road, you know, that need to work with TMR and work all that out. So, okay, does anyone else wish to speak? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0. L4, supporting RUOK Day in local amenities through the regional men's sheds. I'd like to move that council support the rollout of information to the public amenities and possibly men's sheds in support of RUOK campaign, focused, similar or the same as what has been brought up as excellent in the toilets in the in-June visitor or hall complex. So that's where the actual small signs in the toilets have been, and that is what has been requested to be replicated. So that's what, so we understand that is what is already in our council building, and it would just be replicated in our public toilet blocks across the region. Please go ahead, Councillor Hancock.
Just a question, Mr Mayor. So are they so this is permanent signage then?
No, they're normally just holders, and they put a new A4 piece in there.
But would you have the RUOK signage in there permanently that just gets changed every year? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, what is in there is generally, you know, talking about RUOK, depression, all of those things, and they can be just pulled out and a new statement put in. And it was brought up that how effective they are, especially reaching, you know, like for instance, in that case, the men's toilet. And it's rolling those out, and then it's just very low cost to put a new printout in there.
Who does that now? Who replaces that now? Is that council or is it community group? Is it?
I would actually have to ask the CEO, but we do know we've got something to work off up there in June at the hall toilets, and that's where this is come from, to take it out to the region. So obviously,
Talking about just like supporting it, printing them out and putting them in, or are you talking about buying the infrastructure of those holders and rolling that out in facilities that currently don't have them?
I would say that this report would be investigating and rolling it out, and if there's any budgetary costs that they can't cover, come back to council.
But you're not asking for a report, you're saying we support.
Well,
Coming back.
yeah, no, well, I don't think we need to, but I'm happy to put at the end of it that if there's any budgetary costs that cannot be covered locally, that a report be brought back to council.
Mr Mr Mayor, I just wonder, like, when I was reading that, look, I think that's a great idea. It's just that when I was reading it, I just thought, oh, okay, we're just going to get officers to go and print out the Are You OK Day and go and blue tack them or whatever, put them up in our amenities. I'm just, as an officer, I just don't know if that is clear enough to know what they've actually got to do.
We actually did change it from the resolution to actually say that the Injune Hall complex, so we've got something to go off in there, and that's what we're actually doing. So are you okay /
Campaign focused on similar or the same as, because we're talking about campaign, but we're not talking.
Yeah, because like there is Beyond Blue that has these as well. They all have them. So it's really just saying the general concept that we're going to roll it out. And we're already doing it in one of our toilets and we don't even know, or we may know, but and it might be something that we're instigating. So do we have a seconder?
I'm happy to second. Can I also make the suggestion that when you have support of the Are You OK, could you also go and or positive wellbeing programs, because Are You OK is the one that's really well known, but as you said, there's a lot of other ones that are available. Beyond Blue, etc., have a lot of really good ones.
Yeah, that's right. A lot of the ones
a lot
I've
of the
seen.
facilities
They
now.
are already in the facility, that's right.
So I'm happy to put that amendment in, or others, other
Positive
Wellbeing programs.
wellbeing programs.
Positive wellbeing
positive
program.
wellbeing programs. And we've got a second to Councillor Guthrie. I'll speak to the motion. This is brought up by obviously one resident that I was speaking to, thought it was fantastic. I've had feedback from multiple residents about if you said how do you connect, especially to men, this is a great way, and I'm sure it's of benefit to women as well. Toilets are something that we do need to go and use. And it's a lot of council infrastructure that I do believe that we should be harnessing, and to reach in every life that we might be able to help or save or change, to be able to send someone in direction or give them some hope is wonderful, and I think we should be doing anything we can in our council facilities to be able to make that happen. Okay, does anyone else wish to speak for or against the motion? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0. L.5 Lake Neverfill. I'd like to move that a report be prepared for an upcoming council meeting. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Burkett? Yeah, please go ahead.
Propose an amendment.
Yes.
And .2, investigate the illegal access of people using someone's parent. I've just heard yesterday they're going in through, what's the big subdivision up here, up on the hill? Roma 1, and going through the fence the back way. I haven't had time to go and have a look to see if it's true, but just investigate.
Okay, so I'm happy to put that in there. Is the seconder happy?
Why would they need to do that?
They had pay 250 for a key. They go around, come in the back gate. That's only a resident up there who told me. I haven't checked it out.
Righto, so Councillor Hancock,
I just have a couple of questions.
please go ahead.
The email that was handed to us, is that actually going to be part of the is that confidential, or is that part of the report that's going to be open for the public to see?
Look, through the chair, it's the mayor's put his report up. We, from an organisational perspective, did receive this correspondence from one of our own employees, just in relation to context around Lake Neverfill, and it was certainly around access to the site.
So yeah, I'm just wondering, is that public?
That's not part of my report.
No, it's just
my report is standing on what it is there.
Sure. So my next question is, who actually owns the land,
It's a recreational reserve,
and who has the lease over that reserve?
council.
And so therefore, there's a community group that runs it. What's their tie up then with council?
Well, there is no lease over it or anything, but the Lake Recreation Association obviously do the pumping and so forth and collect the fees. But this is a report to get a report back to council.
So, yeah, the reason I'm asking, so the Lake Recreation Association Inc. has no lease or have no, there's no legal bind for them to be operating over that facility that council owns.
No, as far as I'm aware, there is not. It's a
there ever been?
recreational reserve.
Has there ever been?
When you were you were the president of Lake Recreation Association at some point, weren't you?
I don't remember any time that there was a lease, but it was the lake.
Was it an agreement then with council, like a handshake agreement when you were?
Well, honestly, it was that long ago. I don't remember, but I know that.
I'm asking because you can provide the context because you were involved.
Yeah, but I don't think there was ever any lease over it. But council obviously worked side by side in being able to get the pipeline into place, the pumping station and the pipeline. So
how can an organisation use a council facility and charge for it without having any paperwork or formal agreement to be able to do that?
well,
I don't
anyway,
understand.
so this is what the report is about, is like getting back what's happening. You know, obviously I've had feedback about it should be open to the public. So
Excuse me,
yeah,
excuse me, Chair, it's Councillor Edwards returning to the meeting.
thank you.
Excellent.
It used to, like for when you were involved, did people pay $250 to access a key?
No, because there was no fence there. The fence was put up afterwards, right? So, or, like in that period of time, before that, people could donate to the association, but there was no, and really, I think it's time for us, and obviously council's looking at doing some improvements out there. I think it's time to get a report back and have a look at all of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Further to what I said before, Mr Mayor, can I ask for a further amendment for council to investigate who's paying the power bill?
Okay, well, I'm happy to put that in there. Is the second happy?
Yeah.
We'll get a report back.
And sorry, Mr.
Who's
Mayor, one more
currently
thing.
paying it, I should say.
So the only reason I'm asking these questions is to work out, like for me, when I read this initially, I was thinking, well, how can we really get a report when it's somebody else's thing that, it's theirs that they're using with their association. Like it's like us going, oh, well, Bassett Park is, the race clubs, the camp draft is using our facilities, we're going to go and do a report on how the camp drafts run. How is this any different?
No, this is a recreational reserve and council is the trustee of it. And we are very responsible for out there what happens. And this is getting a report and getting all that information so councillors can consider it. Okay, so I'll speak to it. Certainly this is not anything as far as any reflection on Lake Recreation Association. This is actually, it's exciting the future that we're actually considering doing things out there with the whole Campbell's Park and Lake Neverfill. And it's certainly been requested from the community, but there is some feedback about how we can best get more people using it. I think all of the questions need to come back to council and then we can work with Lake Recreation Association about how we can move both forward benefit for the community of the Maranoa. So does anyone else wish to speak?
Just got a question. Please go ahead. I don't know if this is an amendment, but would you include in there that and that stakeholder engagement occur with the Lake Recreation Association?
Well, I would actually wait till we get a report back and then of course we would talk to the Lake Neverfill Association.
Because they've been to see us and present.
But I think that there's some general things that we need to understand and then of course we need to talk to, the community group involved. So we're not going to be making any decisions. So I wouldn't support that amendment.
Hancock is in front of me.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Just a question, Mr Mayor. I'm a little bit concerned about that too. I just feel that, so to get some of this information that we would need to get a full report, I would assume that our officers will have to speak to the Lake Recreation Association.
Not us,
And they can do that.
That's
not us here, but.
No,
No, but
I
our-
said council, not councillors.
that council, like to get that information, wouldn't it be in consultation with or in discussion with the Lake?
But they'll be doing,
Association?
I would imagine, CEO, that you'd be doing that anyway to get your information, is working with.
Yeah, look, certainly, based on the conversations that are happening inside the chamber, there's a bit of research that needs to be done around the agreements and things like that, which would have to be confirmed with the Lake Association Committee. You probably don't need to prescribe that in your resolution, in your motion as such.
But it'd be respectful to include them because they are the only stakeholder in terms of an organisation. The whole community's potential users, but
But I think that's going to happen anyway, and then we would talk, I would like to see that we talk to them once we know and get a report back. Councillor
Mr
McMillan?
Mayor, my recommendation, I may not have worded it correctly, maybe we should be investigating if council are currently paying the power bill.
Yeah.
And that,
Is the seconder happy with that?
Yeah, I think all this sort of stuff will come out in the report.
yeah,
I
but
think-
if council can determine that we aren't paying the power bill, then it's out, the power bill's not, if we're paying for it, that's what I'm trying to find out, a bit of.
Okay, does anyone wish to speak for or against the motion?
Mr Mayor, can I add another investigation there, just as I'm listening to the conversation here? Investigating the current tenure and lease arrangements that are in place, because that's the bit that I'm a bit confused about here and don't really understand is, have we got a signed agreement? What are we dealing with? What sort of tenure
That'll
or
come up in the
occupancy?
report too, wouldn't it?
Okay, well, it will, but I think that's something that's going to happen, that you're actually asking
I'm
for
actually
something.
asking for it because I think that's pivot, that's really crucial.
Councillor Burkett, are you in favour of that?
Yeah, I don't know, I just think I thought all this would be coming up in the report, but I'm happy if it's going to be more information, but.
Righto, okay, does anyone else wish to speak for the motion?
I'm not going to speak. We're going to get so prescriptive, I'm going to move an amendment that stakeholder engagement occur with the Lake Recreation Association.
At a staff level.
At a council, council level, staff level.
When we say council, that's here.
No, that's council
We
entity.
always say staff.
Okay, so do you have a seconder for that?
Yep, I'll second that.
Oh, well, I'm not in favour of doing it as the motion, so yeah, we have a seconder. Do you wish to speak to the motion?
I do. I think it's really important that the users and the association that has had the responsibility looking after this particular asset for some time is engaged in any information that comes back to council relevant to Lake Neverfill. I don't think it hurts. There's been, an appetite by the mover to include specific things to investigate. All I'm simply adding into the recommendation is that we engage with the Lake Recreation Association, which are referenced in the report.
Okay, does anyone else wish to speak for or against the amendment? I'll speak against. I don't believe it's necessary. I believe that the CEO has said that they will be speaking, finding information out. We're not making any decisions. We're just getting some clarity on some points, and I believe that the association will be consulted anyway about getting the basic information back. So I won't be supporting this amendment. Okay, does Councillor Hancock wish to speak?
Yes, I'm going to support the amendment because I think that it's very respectful to list the stakeholder in the resolution. And as you've just been amendable for other councillors in the room, when they ask for specific stuff like illegal access and currently who's paying the power bill and the current tenure, that you've said that that would all come back in the report anyway, but yet you listed them in the resolution. But yet when you say that the engagement of the stakeholder would come back in the report, but you're not willing to list them in the resolution, I think that speaks volumes to the stakeholders that are listed in the report. I can't see why we can't be respectful of an association. We normally are, and just and list them formally in the report to engage them as stakeholders. I think it's a positive outcome for council with for future relationships.
Okay, councillor McMullen.
May I disagree? I believe we should go as we said. I'm not against meeting with the stakeholders, but we need to get our questions answered through our channels before we talk to them about anything else. There's questions there that nobody knows in this room, and probably those people don't know either. I think we need to have them investigated or whatever, and then meet with them. I'm more than happy to meet with them, but I don't think, not at this point in time.
Okay, does anyone wish to speak? Does the mover wish to sum up?
Thanks very much. There's no time frame in terms of when to meet with the stakeholder group, as Councillor Burke has already suggested. The report will be, borne by the officers. They will engage with the relevant people to identify the information that has been asked for by particular councillors. This amendment is simply acknowledging the fact that we've got an association that currently does a lot of work out on this particular asset, and as Councillor Hancock has articulated, it's respectful in terms of long-term relationships with our community, and in this case the Lake Recreation Association, that we include them in that process.
Okay, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour of the amendment? All those against?
Against.
3-6, if I can call for a division. Does anyone else wish to speak to the motion? I'll sum up. This is very respectful. As the CEO has said, as part of getting the information back, if there is information that's needed from the community group, it will happen anyway as part of the report. But I do agree that we've got to get all our ducks in a row, and this council has always had a history of supporting community groups and being respectful, and I think it's not respectful to say that we're not being respectful when we are being respectful. Okay, on that note, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
All those against? 6-3 if I can call for a division. Okay, moving on to, looks like we've got confidential.
Mr. Wood. Why are you getting hungry again, Jeff?
Page 2, see one.
On that beautiful watch you got.
All done up.
Where'd you have that done? Was it expensive? Yeah, worth it though. Oh, yeah.
So we have a conflict, do we? Councillor McMullen, do you have a conflict? Councillor McMullen, do you have a conflict?
Oh, sorry. Mr Mayor, conflict on C5, 2022-23 capital program, other gravel renewal works to maintain Unsealed network. I, declaring councillors myself, Jeff McMullen, person with interest myself, particulars of interest, I own a grazing block on Menango Road, which is one of the roads listed. Actually, Kel, I better put Jean's name down too, myself and my partner Jean Clifford, because it's in both. We own a grazing block on Menango Road, which is one of the roads listed in this report. A declarable conflict of interest. Although I have a declarable conflict of interest, I do not believe a reasonable person would have a perception of bias. Therefore, I will choose to remain in the meeting. However, I will respect the decision of the meeting on whether I can remain and participate in the decision.
Okay, do we have anyone with some wording?
I've got a question.
Please go ahead.
Councillor McMullen, not to disclose what's in the report, but your property, does that fall between a particular chainages?
No, it's just on Menango Road. Yeah. I don't, no.
So those
Not in the chainages.
those chainages that are listed,
Yeah.
is your property in that?
No.
Right.
Okay, do we have anybody with any wording? Councillor Guthrie.
I'm happy to move that it is in the public interest that Councillor McMullen participates and votes on agenda item C5 because a reasonable person would trust that the decision is made in the public interest.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor, I think Ladbroke was first. Any opposition? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
8-0. Okay, just on that, is all the councillors had a look at all the roads on there? Just in case they've got a road on page 45. Okay, do we have any other conflicts? No, great. Okay, do we have anyone to move into closed? Councillor
Mr
McMullen.
Mayor, I'll move that in accordance with the provisions of section 254J3 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, the council resolved to close the meeting to the public to discuss confidential items in the council, that its council is considered is necessary to close the meeting. In accordance with section 254J5 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, the following table provides the matters to be discussed, an overview of what is to be discussed while the meeting is closed. C1, acquisition of historic asset. C2, lot number SP123777. C3, memorandum of understanding. C4, claim for damages, public liability. C5, 2022-23 capital program, other gravel renewal works to maintain unsealed network. LC1, Chief Executive Officer recruitment. LC2, social housing portfolio divestment to Department of Communities, Housing and Digital Economy. LC3, Queensland Music Festival proposal. That's it, Kel, is it? Oh, good.
Okay, do we have a seconder? Councillor Burkett. Or any opposition? All those in favour?
Yes.
9-0. Okay, we'll get a sign out. C1, acquisition of historic asset. I'd like to move that council consider the funding costs included in C1 and also in regards to the entertainment centre for Roma, and bring that back to the next briefing with a report to come back to the next council meeting on this matter. Okay, do we have a seconder?
What was the resolution?
We've had a report to council in the past about that for Roma, and I'd like to consider that at the same time. So there's a report in that we've already made a decision to go ahead with getting a further report back to council. Okay?
Yeah, I do.
Sorry, I don't recall an entertainment centre. I don't actually know what you're referring to.
Yes.
We did do it, and it was in Hallu not so long ago, well, a little while ago.
Called an entertainment centre?
Yeah, and it was and it was to incorporate a cinema and things like that, a bit of everything, wasn't it?
Yep. Okay, do we have a seconder?
Mr Mayor, can I ask a question before this gets seconded? So the funding costs, is that the funding costs to provide money to purchase, or is that?
Yep, correct. All of those.
And different scenarios.
All of those
Purchase.
scenarios.
That's the purchase price, the funding.
To purchase it should be.
Or possible scenarios.
Yeah, funding
Sources,
sources of borrowing and so forth. Okay, do we have a seconder for that motion?
Do you need to put a figure in there?
No,
Councillor Burkett? No, that's in the report and it's closed, but we'll be getting that information for all
Talk about it at
councillors through a briefing and then back to the next meeting. Okay, does anyone wish to speak to it? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
All those against? 5-4. If I call for a division. Okay, now moving on to C2. C2, do we have to remove it? Who would someone like to remove
Yes,
it?
we've got some wording there.
No, he didn't.
It-
No, just, you didn't do a casting then, did you? It was just 5-4.
I'll move that this item be removed from the agenda.
Okay, do we have a seconder? Councillor Ladbrook, any opposition? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
9-0. Okay, moving on to C3. C3, Memorandum of Understanding. Councillor Taylor.
I'd like to move that council authorise the chief executive officer or delegate to execute the memorandum of understanding with the Toowoomba Regional Council as presented.
We have a seconder, Councillor McMullen. Any opposition? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
9-0. C4, claim for damages, public liability. Do we have a mover? Councillor Burkett.
I move that council receive and note the officer's report as presented.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Guthrie. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
9-0. C5, 2022-23 capital program, other gravel renewal works to maintain unsealed network. Councillor McMullen.
Mr Mayor, I'll move that council acknowledge that a budget allocation of $3,511,918 was adopted for other gravel renewal works to maintain unsealed networks as part of the 2022-23 budget. 2, endorse the project outlined below to be delivered under the other gravel renewal works to maintain unsealed road program with the inclusion of the 1, 2, hang on, Kel, I just try 1, 2, no, just keep still, please. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, with line 6, a sixth item under the Waroo local area.
It's already there, Jane.
I know, but the public don't, that's an inclusion to the original report, that's all.
Okay, do you want to read out what that is? If
Well, that's
it's,
confidential.
Or is it in the report?
It's
Is it?
in the resolution, so I'm assuming.
No, it's not, it's confidential, though.
All of that gets,
Yeah.
Oh,
that's
okay.
the resolving
It's
law.
okay. Oh,
So as listed.
yeah, I was
you
thinking,
go.
yeah.
So you could go in the 4 dot points, the 5 projects.
Yeah, I've
in
got it,
each
sorry,
4 dot
yeah, I'm with it.
points.
I've got to say, endorse the projects outlined below to be delivered under the other gravel renewal works to maintain an unsealed network program. I've got to read them all out. Bendemeer local area, $860,000, including PI Road, change 10.6 to, well, it's, PI Road's what they call it. Everyone refers to it as a PI Road.
But what does the offer, yep, okay.
PI Road, change 10.6 to change 16.2. The Gullingimby Road, change 5 to Crossroads Road intersection. Iona Bardlomi, change 8.8 to change 12.8. Finch Lane from 0, change 0 to change 0.600. Trims Road, change 0.00 to change 3.10. Bungle local area, $935,000, including Gunnerman West Road, change 9 to change 13.5. 20.4 plus chainage 19.3 to 20.20. Richardson's Lane, chainage 5 to Dargle intersection. Donnybrook Shoulders resheet along school bus route. Bendigo Road, chainage 2.42 to chainage 3.26. Mirrabooka Road, chainage 5 to chainage 11. Waroo local area, $725,000, including Tomby Creek Road, chainage 8. Tomby Road, sorry, 83.10 to chainage 96. Swerdner Downs Road, Carnarvon Highway to chainage 5.6. Tealbar Road, funded under 2021-22 carryover. And Begonia Road, funding separately under TIDS. And Maranoa Road, approximately 2 kilometres from the end of the bitumen. Baringa local area, $960,000, including Forestry Road, chainage 0 to chainage 8. Material supply and replacement only. Tomo Road, chainage 14 to chainage 27.6. Roslyn Road, drainage improvements. Cornwall Road, chainage 8 kilometres, at the eastern end. Mount Moffat and Redford Road, funding separately under TIDS.
We have a seconder. Councillor Hancock. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
9-0. Okay, LC1, Chief Executive Officer Recruitment. CO, did you?
Do you want me to leave? Okay. No.
Yeah, you didn't need to say anything?
No.
Do you?
No.
No, you don't. Righto.
No, it's fine.
Righto, thank you. CO, did you want to have anyone to send in as a director or something, or what would you?
Unless you need them.
No.
You can have a minute taken.
Right, so you're happy with that?
Yep.
Righto. Okay, LC1, Chief Executive Officer Recruitment. I'd like to move that Council 1 engage pre-recruitment, Pty Ltd, under a local buy pre-qualified supplier contract arrangement to undertake the recruitment process for the position of Chief Executive Officer. 2, establish a subcommittee comprising of the Mayor, Deputy Mayor and Councillor Guthrie to facilitate the recruitment of a qualified Chief Executive Officer. 3, authorise the Mayor to negotiate the final terms and conditions of the contract of employment with the qualified person nominated and decided by Council to be appointed as the Chief Executive Officer in accordance with Section 194 of the Local Government Act 2009. Okay, do we have a seconder?
That covers.
Councillor Ladbrook. I'll speak to the motion. I believe this is the most streamlined process that we can do. I do believe that we need to be early with selecting a Chief Executive Officer, and now is the time to get on with this. Okay, does someone speak against the motion?
I'd like to move an amendment.
Please go ahead.
I'd like to move that a point be included in the resolution that states the subcommittee shortlist 3 candidates for interview by the full council.
So I don't accept that. So do you have a seconder for your Councillor Hancock? Does the mover wish to speak to the amendment?
Thanks very much. I think by including this particular line into the resolution strengthens the opportunity for all councillors to be involved in the recruitment of what is the most important position that we as councillors have the responsibility of appointing. There have been 9 people elected by the people of the Maranoa to make decisions on their behalf. I have no problem in a panel that includes the Mayor, the Deputy Mayor and the nominated councillor by the Mayor, Councillor Guthrie. There's a process where a short list can occur down to at least 3 candidates, and those candidates come and present to the full council. The full council then has an opportunity of interviewing them, getting to know them, asking them questions relevant to the role that they will execute on our behalf as the most senior executive within the organisation. And this process would allow all 9 of us, elected by the community, to fulfil our responsibility of ensuring that we are making the best decisions possible on our community's behalf. And we can only do that if we're involved in the process, and that can only be achieved by interviewing and therefore assessing who will lead our council into the future in terms of the organisation. So I urge all councillors to show the respect of your fellow councillors in the room by supporting this addition to the resolution, which would empower all 9 of us to be involved in this process.
I'll speak against the amendment. I don't agree. I do believe, and it's in the Local Government Act, that all councillors appoint the CEO. I do believe there would be, if this amendment is not supported, there will be a lot of detail that will be coming in being able to make the decision for the 9 councillors. Nobody can appoint the CEO except for the full council making a decision, and that will not change. In fact, I think the argument has flaws in it, because that means that if you can only do that by interviewing the candidates that are in the shortlist, then you can't do a proper process unless you interview everyone, and you would not have a subcommittee. So I think the argument is flawed. I do think that the information would go to all councillors in regards to the preferred person in the position, and it's up to the full council whether they wish to appoint that position. And if they don't, then obviously council would look for someone else. So I do believe that it's a flawed argument. Otherwise, you should be involved with the whole process, interviewing every applicant, and it does not sound like there's support to do that. So I think that there is so much detail in the process that I do believe all councils will have all the information needed to be able to select with confidence the position of CEO, appoint the Chief Executive Officer. Okay, does anyone wish to speak for the amendment? Councillor Hancock.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I have no problem with having a subcommittee of the Mayor, the Deputy Mayor and Councillor Guthrie to start the interview process and to shortlist. I have a major concern with that subcommittee narrowing it down to, as the Mayor just said, 1 candidate to bring to council to make the decision. This is not a dictatorship. We were all elected here to sit at this table to make this decision. We all have the responsibility to make this decision and be involved in this process for the leader of not only our organisation but a leader of our community, for our community's sake. This is our responsibility to be involved in this process, and I think it's one we should take seriously. And I am just asking council for the opportunity to be involved in the final 3 selection and interview of the final 3 candidates, so that we can all have a level playing field on making the decision who is the next CEO of this community, who not only we individually will work with, but our community will work with as well. I actually think that is a fair, open and transparent process to undertake as the leaders of this community, as councillors sitting at this table.
Does anyone wish to speak for the against the amendment, or for the amendment? Please go ahead, Councillor Taylor.
I actually don't have a lot to add to Councillor Hancock and Councillor O'Neill. My biggest concern is it is flawed, but it is flawed in the fact that you're only going to bring one candidate to the table for us to decide. So what's to decide? You've got one candidate. If we decide we don't want them, you've got to start all over again. I think this is something we can do together because we've been brought together to do a job. And if we can't at least pick the CEO that we want, and I too am happy for a subcommittee, don't have a problem with whoever's on the subcommittee. It could be any three of us, it doesn't really matter. And I believe the mayor and the deputy mayor should be two out of those three. So, and Julie will more than do the job. But I feel at the end of the day, we deserve as a council to also have a say. And for you to bring one person to the table and say, hey, this is who we've picked, well, and that might be right, but at least we've got a choice and we can actually interview, and as we say, at least three would be good, so that we can do something together and go out to our community and say, well, this is what we've done, this is what we have decided as a council. I just think we're not getting a fair go here if you don't let us do our job.
Okay, does anyone wish to speak against the amendment? Does anyone wish to speak for the amendment? Does anyone wish to sum up?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I mean, the argument's clear in my mind. 9 people sit around this table. It falls on our shoulders with the responsibility of the appointment of the CEO, the only position that councillors have a right to and responsibility of appointing, to ensure that it is a fair and open process to allow us to fulfil our responsibilities. I can only urge councillors to support this amendment, because this amendment would allow us to fulfil the responsibilities we've been elected to execute on behalf of our community.
Okay, on that note, we'll vote on the amendment. All those in favour? All those against?
Against.
Okay, that's carried 6-3.
No.
5-4.
5-4, sorry. 5-4. Okay, so,
And was there a division called?
no, I
For a
haven't.
division?
I'd like to call for a division.
Okay, now we'll keep going with the motion.
I wasn't sure who was the 5.
Does anyone wish to speak against the motion or for the motion that haven't spoken?
Carried 5-4. So one.
That is now the resolution.
Yeah.
That's now the resolution.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Sorry, can you just clarify what was that?
So that amendment was carried, so it now is
right.
in the motion, that point has been added to the motion. Has anyone not spoken or wishes to on the motion?
Can I just ask a question?
Please go
So
ahead.
in point number 4, does that now,
No, that's what's there.
It's
What's on the
just,
screen is what it is.
Yeah, all the rest of it's there, and that also,
but then it says, condition with a qualified, what's it say? I'm sorry.
Sorry, there was one slight adjustment. And then,
Oh, with the qualified person nominated, yeah, got it, sorry, yeah.
Sorry, Chair, are we voting on, is this the,
this is the whole motion now?
The whole, Kel's got the amendment, the amended motion. You had it up, Kel, didn't you?
I'm just checking because the mayor made a slight adjustment originally.
has the amended one been voted on yet?
Yeah.
No, we're gonna do it
In a
now.
minute.
We just, Kel's just getting
Right.
it sorted.
Okay.
That's the new motion, isn't it?
Righto, I can see it now.
Righto. Now, if no one else wishes to speak, please go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I think I'm happy to support the new recommendation. I think we just got to rely on due process. I think that the three of you guys in the selection panel will do a fantastic job, and everything will be spelled out, and the correct procedure will be followed. That information will be brought back to us. Then we get the opportunity to interview the three. I think we tick all the boxes and hopefully get a good candidate.
You're still the mover, are you? And Laddie's the seconder? Councillor? Yeah, that's right.
That doesn't change.
No, that's right. I just want
The
to make...
amendment just gets put in there once it's been approved.
Okay, that's right. I just want to...
Okay, does anyone else wish to speak? Then we'll go to the vote. All those in favour? Councillor Edwards, are you there?
And against?
Yes.
Are you in favour or against?
If that's the resolution in front of me now, I can see I'm against it.
Okay, so all those against? So you're against, so that's 8-1, if I can call for a division. Okay, we can ask the CEO to come back, please.
Page 4 and page 14. Oh.
And that's the...
Okay, LC2, Social Housing Portfolio Divestment to Department of Communities, Housing and Digital Economy. Councillor O'Neill.
I'm happy to move, but I'll just ask a question before I do. Just in relation to point 2, which is the economic development budget, GL economic development stimulus special projects with the GL number. If I refer to, and I apologise for asking, this can just be yes or no answer. If I refer to page 11 where it says the financial year's budget, is that those provisions that are there, is that related to that particular GL number of special project? It's not.
No.
So is there an appropriate allocation in the GL to accommodate what I'm about to move, because there isn't in fact a figure?
Look, through the chair, just if I'm just trying to answer with some degree of completeness. The general ledger that I'm quoting in relation to special projects is really about putting the submission and the feasibility, for want of a better word, together to be funded out of economic development. The 1.9 million and the 1 million, they actually exist in reserves.
So it's just that this be funded from the economic development budget. Like my question, that we're saying we'll fund it from there, but there isn't a figure.
Look, and through the chair, I don't have that figure. I don't have a figure for that.
That's where the resource is going to be drawn in terms of manpower to pull this project together. Okay.
Yes.
I'll move then, Mayor, that one, council supports the development of a feasibility report to support a submission to the Director General of Department of Communities, Housing and Digital Economy in relation to reinvestment of surplus and pilot funds, and extend to include the following. A, explore and develop a concept for elderly tenant units in Roma, potentially Whip Street adjacent to existing state-owned tenancies and behind state-owned properties that will be included in the divestment portfolio. B, explore the reinvestment of surplus housing funds into associated tenancies being divested in Byte Street, Roma, to complement Whip Street development. C, include the finalisation of a spade-ready development for housing in Stage 5A Lot 145 Upper Bowen Street, as well as the cost of a gated community over 50s development as part of that subdivision. D, the cost of development of small acreage lots, 16.4 hectares of lot 338 WV 1628 51 Dargle Road, Roma. E, note the items C and D do not form part of any divestment obligation. However, it is advantageous to reduce costs when included at the time of any development of concepts for items A and B. And 2, this be funded from the Economic Development Budget, GL Economic Development Stimulus Special Projects 298025002001.
Okay, do we have a seconder? Councillor Burkett, any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it?
Thanks, Mr Mayor. There is a suite of options here that will go if the feasibility report suggests it to address what we all know our community is facing in terms of housing issues. Council has spent a considerable amount of time being briefed and workshopping on particular ways forward, and I am really pleased to move what is a very full recommendation with a lot of work for the staff to undertake, but one that I think will truly see this issue start to be addressed, and in a relatively timely fashion.
Okay, does anyone wish to speak against or for the motion? Councillor Burkett.
Yes, Mayor, I'll speak for. I agree with Councillor O'Neill. I think this was one of the most fruitful briefings and informative process we've been through, and I think that we'll use fruit again. The fruits of our labour, hopefully, will, and the staff moving forward. I think it's a win-win for everyone. There's an array of different types of housing that'll solve a lot of issues, so I'm looking forward to seeing this come to fruition. I'll use fruit again. That's $50.
Okay, does anyone else wish to speak for the motion? I'll speak for the motion. I certainly believe that there is some housing that we need to really solve some of our long-term history that wasn't tidied up, even from previous councils. And I think we need to get on top of that. We obviously need to have a look at some different opportunities, and whatever we can do to improve our housing ability to get people into housing and the correct sort of housing will be beneficial for the Maranoa. Okay, does anyone wish to speak to the motion? Does the mover wish to sum up?
Thanks very much, Chair. Just 2 points. One, I know that there will be former councillors of the Maranoa Regional Council that will be incredibly excited with the work that Council looks to be doing in relation to Dargle Road. That was a major strategic decision 2 terms ago now. And the reasons in which that acquisition occurred is largely why we are undertaking the body of work that is about to happen. And my final point is I wholeheartedly concur with Councillor Burkett. The workshop and the briefing that we had in relation to all of the housing issues, I've got to say, is one of the best planned by the staff, and the level of engagement that occurred from the councillors in relation to this, I think needs to be pointed out and highlighted, and I look forward to seeing the next steps in what is a really important process.
Okay, on that note, we go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
9-0. L.3 CO, we'll just adjourn for a minute. So, Councillor Ladbroke, are you going to do a conflict?
Yes.
Right.
Kelly's doing it up there.
So we're still adjourned, if by chance.
No, we're not. We're in the meeting at the moment. Yep, we're in the meeting. Yep. I just said we were going again. So did you have a question, Councillor O'Neill?
Sure. If this was to lay on the table to a future meeting of council, whether it be a special meeting or not, is it possible to get information regarding what in-kind assistance would be required and what resources are we able to allocate in the timeframe in which this particular event would occur? Is that, how quickly could that come back?
Through the chair, I'm really not sure in the fact that we did have a proposal, and I'm certain that they are negotiable about what that might be, depending on what we can or can't do. From what I recall in relation to the conversations that they had with us, was that they will bring the majority of things, the stages of sound, etc. Where they may need assistance is, from, I guess, preparation of the grounds.
Provision of the grounds is one of the requests.
Yes, and
Provision of the grounds.
additional support, potentially even moving things, and just organising things in general. I would say I'm just trying to recall the engagement with Merway Shire was that certainly we had tourism staff working with them. The venue was actually the Cosmos Centre, so again there was staffing involvement, in-kind involvement around just making things were set up. There was additional promotional activity along with the festival. There was a range of food vendors that were helped, where the council actually worked closely with the music festival to organise that side of it, to get some local community benefit coming in, and so that there was some of that kind of back end prep, and obviously a little bit of heavy work, but the majority of it was around promotional, about complimentary attendance, and around the street. The vendor, the food and the street vendors, and setting up marquees and things like that.
Mr. Mayor, are we discussing this item even though we know there's two councillors here that have conflict?
Councillor O'Neill was asking a question for some
About
information.
whether we could get detail.
We haven't made a decision on it.
No, just
he
around
was
what
asking
was that
about
meant.
getting some information to do with this item.
He
asked a question. So, okay, Councillor Hancock, you want to do a conflict?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. But I was just going to give, you're right, Cal. I'd like to declare a conflict on item L.3, Queensland Music Festival proposal, declaring Councillor Joanne Hancock, person with interest, Stephen Hancock, brother-in-law. Particulars of interest: our brother-in-law is the president of the Mitchell Show Society, and Mitchell Show Society is mentioned in the report. Type of conflict is declarable conflict of interest, and the action is, although I have a declarable conflict of interest, I do not believe a reasonable person could have perception of bias because the date of the Mitchell Show does not coincide with the proposed date of this event. Therefore, I will choose to remain in the meeting. However, I will respect the decision of the meeting on whether I can remain and participate in the decision.
Okay, does anyone have any wording? Councillor Taylor.
I'd like to move that it is in the public interest that Councillor Hancock participates and votes on agenda item LC3, because no reasonable person would trust that the decision, a reasonable person would trust that the decision is made in the public interest.
Okay, do we have a seconder? Councillor Guthrie. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour?
You can't vote.
Oh, I can't, no.
Yes.
Because you have to do the same conflict.
Okay, so that's 7-0. Do we have another conflict, Councillor Ladbroke?
Yeah, I have a conflict with LC3. Description is Queensland Music Festival proposal. Declaring councillor is myself, Councillor Ladbroke. The person with the interest relating to the party is my wife Alana, and the particulars of the interest: my wife is president of the Roma Show Society. The type of conflict is a declarable conflict of interest, and the action I'll take, I'll leave the room while the matter is being discussed and voted on. Thank you.
Okay. So LC3 Queensland Music Festival, I'd like to move that I'd like to move that council support the Outback I'll change that. Number one, that council, thank the Queensland Music Festival for their partnership proposal to deliver the event in May 2023, no later than 10th of May 2023 as part of Outback Queensland Music Trail Initiative. 2, sponsor the Queensland Music Festival by a cash contribution of $50,000 plus GST with funds drawn from unrestricted cash reserves and the 2023 budget update be updated accordingly. 3, further investigate and negotiate the value of in-kind assistance requested to support the venue costs and the engagement of local community. 4, be recognised and acknowledged as part of the event partner promotional activities for the event. 5, that council negotiate with local businesses in regards to costs of council's commitment to bring the event to the region. Negotiate, support, I should say, in this.
Mayor, can I suggest negotiate,
Support,
Financial support.
financial support. In regards to reducing the cost. Cost of council's commitment to bringing the event to the region. Okay, do we have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Burkett. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it? I do. I think this is D-Day. We've put this off many, many times. From my knowledge of Western councils, far smaller than ourselves, jump at these opportunities. I have seen a similar trail work very well. I do believe it's a totally different crowd than will be in town. I don't think it competes against anything else, but I do think there's ability to show them the Maranoa once they're there. So I think it's a win-win for the whole Maranoa, and I think the community would say, if Western Downs has done it and Merway, Charleville has done it, why aren't we involved? And I think we need to be, because it'll have greater benefits for the region, and that's why I'm supporting this motion today. Okay, does anyone wish to speak against the motion?
Mr Mayor, can I move an amendment just to reword .5? I'm not.
Yeah, please go ahead.
I'd say negotiate financial support with local businesses to sponsor the costs of bringing this event to town, towards
The only reason I didn't do that was they might be the only ones that can give out sponsorship to the event. Like they'll be wanting to get their own sponsorship, the festival. But what I'm saying is they might be able to share the cost with us with not sponsoring it, because the music festival would probably be the only people that can say it's sponsoring it. Do you know what I'm saying?
Negotiate financial support with local businesses to partner with council in bringing the event to the region.
Like what I mean is we can't officially go down that sponsorship thing because we're probably not the ones allowed to do that. They are.
That's right.
It's your amendment, I just gave you some wording.
Yeah, no, that's a bit better, I just, yeah.
Just a question.
We just-
Councillor Hancock?
Just with that negotiate financial support to local business, so we're saying that we'll give the 50,000, but if then we get financial support from businesses, are they going to give that to us to reduce that 50,000, or are we going to be giving the 50,000 and then getting extra sponsorship on top of the 50,000?
I had in there to reduce the cost to council. That's what I had in there before.
So that
To
would
reduce the
mean-
cost to council.
So that would mean they would be giving us the money to go towards the event.
Yeah,
No
correct.
contribution.
Mr Mayor, just following on from councillor Hancock's point, maybe in number 2, that we actually sponsor with a cash contribution of up to $50,000, which means that if somebody gave 10, you would only need 40. Does that make sense?
Well, no, that's,
That doesn't make sense.
but the mayor's point of it is we want 50,000 plus another 20 or 30.
No.
No.
Well, that's not what he just
No.
said.
We've got 50,000 to give them, and then we've got to do everything else on
No,
top
but
of it.
that,
But what I'm saying is, maybe one of our businesses might say it's a great event, we will cover some of the cost.
Yeah, but what cost are we covering?
Well, I would imagine the cash cost would be,
So we've still got to find all the money for the in-kind.
yeah, but we might be able to do that ourselves. So whichever way that we do it, it's really saying, we sort of put a hold on it, and we've said we're doing it, but really it's getting other people, because we haven't actually asked anyone yet. But we've got it, but it's D-Day for a decision. So what does 5 say? Negotiate financial support.
I'm happy with that. It's a bit better than what
Local business to partner with council in bringing the event to reduce the cost to council. And I don't mind point 2, where we actually say up, well, we need to say we're committing 50,
that's up the top,
so it's got it in there, has it? Where's
to.
it up the top?
number 2. I think up 2 is just a change.
There's nowhere in that resolution where we're approving in-kind that I can see.
Number 3.
Further investigate and negotiate the value of
3.
in-kind assistance.
You can't have up to,
No, it needs to be 50.
yeah.
Well, or you got to say it twice, and then you got to say it, but... Right, okay, so I'm happy with number 5, if councillor Burkett, are you happy?
Yep.
Well, that's the motion. So I've spoken, does anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Taylor, and then Hancock.
I'm not going to vote for this motion because there's too many unknowns in this for me. We don't know the date. We don't know how much it's going to cost for the in-kind or what they want from us. And to say that Merway do it and everybody else in the region does it, well, they might be more financial than we are, because I don't think we can afford it. And the fact that we seem to be able to dip into this reserves, all the unrestricted cash reserve, also worries me. So much as it might be a really good event, I just don't think we can afford to do it.
Councillor Hancock?
So I'd like to speak against, Mr Mayor.
Yeah, does anyone wish to speak for it?
Yeah,
Councillor,
I'll speak. Mr Mayor, I was a bit on the fence with this, but I think a couple of things, and it's still not over the line yet because it's got to come back with the date, so it might marry up with the date, but I do think we can reduce our costs, but the big thing for me is I'm hoping that we can tag it into the events that's following, and like I was more against it at the start, but it is a different demographic, so if we can bring people out to it and get them to enjoy the experience of Rome and the Maranoa with these other events that are following, I think it's a plus, but the date's got to be confirmed yet, so...
Okay, Councillor Hancock?
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Yeah, look, I would really like to support this event. I think this is a great event. I think that it would be great for our community. I just don't feel comfortable voting for this today. If we could have just put it off maybe until next week and have a special meeting. I just don't feel comfortable on voting for this without discussing it with the Roma Show Society, who have their event on that week. I just don't feel comfortable because I don't know how they would feel about it. They may feel that it could be great, or they actually may feel that is council bringing something in that's actually going to overshadow and overpower their event. So I have concerns about that. I would like to have been able to have that conversation. That they may have said that if council gave us that 50,000, we could have got a bigger headline for our event. So I'm just really concerned about the fact that we are bringing a major event into our region on the same week as the Roma show without consulting that community. I'm concerned on the impacts that's going to have to our organisation and our staff to be able to do our in-kind for both of these events if this gets up. So, I'm actually really sad that I can't support it. I hope it'll come back to the table a following year with a different date where it would actually work for our community much better. I don't believe it's a different demographic. I know that there will be people who will travel with this, but I know myself that I would actually attend both the events in the region, and so therefore there will be many people who might feel a bit torn to be able to do that, and I would just hope, and I would hate that our local community might miss out. So I just am sad I can't support it, but it's on those bases that I can't support it.
Okay, does anyone wish to speak for the motion? Or against?
I'm going to move a procedural motion that this lies on the table to a future meeting of council. I can't specify a special meeting because it doesn't exist. Of course, we're together next week for details to come back to council in relation to a confirmation around or further conversations around dates and for council to have a look at the allocation of financial support in this year's budget.
Okay, all those in favour of the motion? All those against?
Against.
So that is 6-2, if I can call for a division. Okay, if we can get councillor Ladbroke back.
So of course, Mayor, I've just moved a procedural motion with two things, but other councillors may in fact have their own information that they want to seek to allow them to make a decision, and I imagine we get that to you, CEO, in terms of what we require to make a decision.
Yep, certainly.
Mr Mayor, can I just request that there could be a conversation had with the executive of the Roma Show Society to just gauge whether or not they believe that this is going to be complimentary, or just to get a feeling about whether or not they're in favour of it.
Well, that's what I was setting close, because they might be encouraging them to promote it or not.
Yeah. And we're sitting here assuming a lot of things and we really don't know. We need
I'm happy to wait next week.
Yeah, but you're going to miss the boat in being able to do that, and it's been to council and no one from council has asked for that before.
Confirming the date.
It is your right to ask it now, but it has been to council multiple times, and we have put them off multiple times, but that's fine, you can certainly
Well, it's
ask.
probably a good thing in a way, Mr Mayor, because it was more positive for them.
Kel, is that meeting of the 14th, have we missed anything I've got anything to go back to? We've got, I just want to make sure we didn't have anything.
Let's just picture it's 9 o'clock in the morning, eh?
So I'll close the meeting of the 14th of September, the ordinary meeting at 4:27 PM. Thank you for your attendance.